Yeah, what up? Welcome in. It's the Nail in the Coffin podcast. I'm your host, Jason Ball. Thank you so much for joining me today. On today's show, my updated MLB power rankings with 2.5 weeks left in the regular season schedule. Plus, did I make a big mistake with my NFL predictions? The NFL team I'm most concerned about following week 1. It's all coming up on today's edition of the Nail in the Coffin podcast. Starting things off today with my updated MLB power rankings, and you are not going to believe who I have at the top of the list. Maybe you will. It might be a shocker. But coming in with my honorable mention for the week in back-to-back weeks is the Tampa Bay Rays. That's right. The Tampa Bay Rays are my honorable mention for this week, for the second week in a row. They're playing really good ball right now. Like, where has this been all season? They've won 4 in a row. They've won 8 out of their last 10. I mean, they're all but eliminated from playoff contention. I mean, they're not technically eliminated. They're still, in the hunt, if you will. They're, 7.5 games right now out of a wild card spot behind Seattle, obviously, who is 7.5 games as well. The Yankees and Oakland, who hold the wild card spots right now. I don't think they're going to make the wild card, but you never know. Stranger things have happened. If they continue to win games at this pace, it might just be possible for us to see a collapse, but I don't think so. But they are my honorable mention for this week. They are playing really good baseball right now. Could it be a sign to come for next season? Who knows? And cracking into the top 10 for my MLB power rankings. Number 10, the Cleveland Indians. They just keep falling on my list. I had them as high as I think 5, maybe 6. I don't know. They're just not impressive to me. They're just not impressive to me. I don't know what it is. I just feel underwhelmed with them every time. From week to week, I just feel underwhelmed. Looking at the games they're playing, who they're playing, the opponents, the dumpster fire of a division that they play in the American League Central. I mean, they've just been elevated by a weak division, in my opinion, and I just don't buy them. I just do not buy the Cleveland Indians. I just think they have, like I said, they've been elevated by a weak division. I mean, look at Minnesota, the Twins, who are in second place in that division, 13 games under 500. 13 games under 500. And then you have the Kansas City Royals, who are in last place, 48 and 95. I mean, it's just been a bad season for the American League Central, and that's why I think the Cleveland Indians are in first place. They're the best out of 5 bad teams, and I just don't buy them. They're at number 10. At number 9, coming down a few spots from last week, the Los Angeles Dodgers. Look, I still maintain the LA Dodgers will win the National League West. I do. But they haven't been able to get over the hump yet. They need to take care of business against sub 500 teams. Right now they're playing the Cincinnati Reds. They lost last night. 10-6. And the Rockies just beat them 2 out of 3 times. And subsequently they have fallen in the standings, a game and a half back now. They lost last week 2 out of 3 times to the Mets. The Mets are a little bit better than their record shows. They have 2 dynamic pitchers, but they're a sub 500 team. And the Dodgers have not been able to beat those types of teams that they should be able to beat. And they just haven't been able to do it yet. Now, they play 3 more sub 500 teams before the end of the regular season. The 2 with the Reds remaining. They have a 3-game set at home versus the Padres, and then a 3-game set to close the season on the road to the Giants. So they need to win those games in order to win this conference. And I said last week, and I stand by it, this division will be decided on September 20th. The morning of September 20th, after that 3-game series at home versus the Rockies, that's when this division will be decided. They have an easier schedule than the Rockies. It should be a no-brainer. But they just have not been able to get the job done thus far this season. And they're running out of time. They are running out of time. The Rockies could just continue to play well and run away with it if the Dodgers don't beat the teams they're supposed to beat. At number 8 is the Colorado Rockies. They are one slide ahead of the Dodgers just based on the fact that they're better than them right now. They are playing better baseball than them right now, and they're holding them off. They are winning the games they're supposed to win, and maybe even a few that they're not supposed to win, but they're beating good teams. They're beating good teams. They beat the Arizona Diamondbacks last night. They just swept the Giants. They're beating the Padres. They're beating the teams they're supposed to beat. Now, again, they struggled last weekend against the Dodgers, but that is going to be the key series remaining in their schedule, like I mentioned, is that 3-game series on the road against the Dodgers from September 17th, 18th, and 19th. And that's why I maintain the Dodgers will win that series and end up winning the division, and it will be decided on September 20th. But for right now, the Colorado Rockies are ahead of them. At number 7, the Milwaukee Brewers. Look, they've closed the gap between them and the Cubs right now. The lead now stands at just 1 game. 1 single game for the National League Central Division at this point. And the Milwaukee Brewers have 2 more games with the Cubs. Now, it is on the road, but they could take a 1-game lead heading out of Chicago before the weekend. And that could be big. That could be big. It's going to be a dogfight. These last 2.5 weeks in the National League Central, it's going to be a dogfight. St. Louis is still in it. They're 3.5 back. They're still in it. But right now, it's between the Chicago Cubs and the Milwaukee Brewers, in my opinion. And I like the Brewers. I like the way they're playing right now. They have a really dynamic offense. Their pitching is, I think, a little bit underrated. I think they've got a very good pitching staff. And I think their offense is great. I do like the Cubs, though, however. I do think the Cubs will hold off on that division and win the National League Central. At number 5, my Atlanta Braves, jumping up 4 spots, I believe, from last week. And, since the sweep by the Red Sox last week, they've won 4 or 5 games on the road. 3 of which were gritty, last-at-bat type, wins. The 3 out of 4 wins they had against Arizona were just straight slobber knockers. They won in the 10th inning twice. They had 3 home runs and 6 runs scored in the 9th inning of one game to seal the victory. And I like that. That's how you win games in the playoffs. They played last night against the Giants, and they played playoff baseball last night against the Giants. Their pitching staff didn't allow a walk. They got timely base hits when they needed to. They sacrifice bunted, safety squeeze, just things that you need to do in order to win playoff games. And they did it last night. And they may be getting hot at the perfect time. They're 5 games up as of right now. Within the next hour or so, when the Phillies and Nationals game goes final, they could be 5.5 games up in the National League East. And it might just be too much for the Phillies to close the gap at this point. The Braves may just run away with it, especially if they're heating up at the perfect time heading into the playoffs. And if their bullpen and their pitching staff overall can figure out how to not walk batters and pound the zone and get outs, watch out, because they can be electric offensively, and their bullpen can be good when they're not walking batters. And I really just like the way they're playing right now. And they control their own destiny, playing the Philadelphia Phillies 7 times in the last 2.5 weeks. So look out for the Braves if they can get everything figured out in time. At number 4, the New York Yankees. You know, look, I said last week, they're not going to catch the Red Sox, but they are still one of the best teams in baseball. You know, they're really almost kind of under the radar, which is kind of weird to say because they're the New York Yankees. But they're really good. I mean, they've won 90 games, 90-54. One of 3 teams, along with Boston and Houston, to have won 90 games at this point in the season. And I really like their offensive lineup. Obviously, offense gets a little bit diminished in the postseason because the pitching is so much better than in the regular season. And it's just a different game entirely. But I do think the New York Yankees offense can pose some problems for opposing pitching in the postseason. And that's why I like them. Like I said, they just added Andrew McCutchen. Mentioned that last week. I like the pickup for them, and he could be a help in the playoffs against the Red Sox. Moving down to number 3, the Oakland Athletics. They have closed the gap a little bit against the Houston Astros, which is surprising because the Astros have been playing very well. They're just 3 games behind Houston for the American League West. I do not think they will catch Houston in the American League West, but they are securely in a wild card spot, 7.5 games ahead of both the Mariners and the Tampa Bay Rays. So they're going to get in the playoffs. They're getting into the playoffs one way or the other, and it's looking like at this point they're going to play the Yankees in a 1-game playoff series, which I don't love the matchup against the Yankees. I just don't love it for some reason. I feel like the Yankees in the postseason has the better roster to win 1 game. Now, the Athletics may be able to win a 5-game series or a 7-game series against the Yankees, but I do not like them in a 1-game winner-take-all, do-or-die series against the Yankees. I just don't. But at this point in time, I think they're playing a little bit better baseball than the Yankees. At number 2, the first time that this team has not been number 1 on my MLB Power Rankings, the Boston Red Sox at number 2. Yes, shocker, I know. But I have one concern. And I've been high on the Red Sox all season. I've maintained all season that they're going to win the World Series. But I have one small concern in the back of my mind. And this is the concern. Are they the 2001 Seattle Mariners? The 2001 Seattle Mariners that set the single season win total for Major League Baseball with 116 wins, and they lost in the first round of the playoffs? Or are they a different team? Do they have are they a good regular season team, or will they continue this dominance, I'll say, into the postseason? And I don't know. That's the only concern that I have with them right now. That and complacency. I mean, they are securely in first place. They lead the American League East by 8 games. There's really no threat to lose out on winning the American League East right now. I mean, the Yankees are a good team, but I don't see like an epic collapse by the Red Sox. So I just kind of think they're complacent right now. And I don't think that you want to be a complacent baseball team heading into the postseason. That's not what I feel like is positive for playoff baseball. You want to be hungry, and you want to be reaching your peak at the end of the season, and you want to be on a hot streak at the end of the season and really hitting your stride at that point. And I just feel like now that they've kind of got the American League East wrapped up, they may become a little complacent right before the end of the season and postseason. That's my concern for them. Now, I love the Red Sox. I think they're a great team. And I think they will ultimately win the World Series. But I just have a little bit of concern. A little bit of concern. That's all. And at number 1, for the first time on my MLB Power Rankings, the Houston Astros. And the reason why is they just beat the Boston 2 out of 3 times. They just beat Boston 2 out of 3 times. And that's why I put them ahead of the Red Sox, mainly based on that fact alone. You know, they might be a better postseason team than Boston, having just won a World Series. They know what it takes to win. They know what it takes to win those games. When it's a 1-0, 2-1 type of battle, and I feel like they might have the edge in a 7-game series against the Red Sox in the American League Championship Series, just based on the fact alone they just won that World Series last season. So there it is, my MLB power rankings with 2.5 weeks left until the end of the 2018 regular season and postseason play begins. So just a review: number 10, Cleveland Indians; number 9, the Los Angeles Dodgers; number 8, Colorado Rockies; at number 7, Milwaukee Brewers; number 6, Chicago Cubs; number 5, the Atlanta Braves; at number 4, the New York Yankees; number 3, the Oakland Athletics; number 2, the Boston Red Sox; and at number 1, the best team in baseball right now is the Houston Astros. It's really exciting at this point. It's just really exciting time for baseball right now. I mean, this is the best time of the year, and I've said this several times on this podcast, but there are several divisions that are just going to be nail-biter dogfights at the end of the year. The National League Central, the National League West. National League East still isn't wrapped up. It could get interesting. The American League West as well could get interesting, but like I said, it's just a great time of year to see who will secure the division wins and the World Series. I love it. I love this time of year. It's great. And as I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast, transitioning now into the NFL team that I'm most concerned about after Week 1. I may have made a huge mistake in my NFL playoff predictions. I don't want to overreact, because it's overreaction Monday or Tuesday, I guess it is today. I don't want to overreact, but I have some concerns. I picked the Falcons to win the NFC South. And they kind of laid an egg on Thursday night. And here's what I think about them. You know, their first series, if you remember back, drove the ball down the field, got first and goal, inside the 5, I believe, or the 10 or something like that. And where was Julio Jones? Does anyone remember? Julio Jones was on the sideline. All 4 plays, they ended up going for it on 4th down, 4th and 2 or 4th and 3, right near the goal line. And Julio Jones was nowhere to be found. He was getting a Gatorade break on the sideline. Why weren't they playing Julio Jones at that juncture? I mean, we saw it at the end of the game, and I'll get to that in just a second. But where was he? If he's not your primary target there when you get into the red zone and near the goal line, I don't know if I like their strategy going forward. And, the final series, they only went to him that one time on a bad throw out of bounds. I do feel like they need to incorporate Julio Jones more, especially near the goal line and into the red zone. And that's my other concern, is last season and this season so far in the first Thursday night game, they haven't showed a consistency to score in the red zone. They just haven't been able to score touchdowns when they get inside the red zone. And I don't know why. I don't know. Maybe it's because Matt Ryan might just not be as good as we think he is. Maybe they need to target Julio Jones more. Maybe they need to try to establish a run game earlier in the game. I don't know. I don't know what it is, but for whatever reason, they have not been able to establish a run or establish a consistency in being able to score inside the red zone. Next, Matt Ryan. I mentioned him earlier. He keeps making me think he's an elite quarterback, and I'm just not sure he is. He always leaves me with something to be desired, I feel like. And I feel like he has enough weapons around him that he should be able to win a lot of games and win the division and go to the NFC Championship game. But he always makes me kind of believe that he's an elite quarterback, a top 7, top 8 quarterback in the league, and I'm not sure that he is. I like him, but I just don't know what I'm getting from him. You know, he had that MVP season a few years ago, and that was kind of his outlier season, but every other season has kind of just been meh, just kind of average. And maybe that's my fault for thinking he's better than what he actually is. But I always feel like there's something to be desired with Matt Ryan. Next thing is, you know, Nick Foles. He was pretty terrible in that game. Let's call a spade a spade. Nick Foles was not good in that game. I mean, if you look at Nick Foles' stat line, 19 of 34 for 117 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, a 26.2 quarterback rating. He was not good. But guess what? Matt Ryan wasn't that much better. Matt Ryan was not that much better. 21 of 43, 251 yards, no touchdowns, 1 interception, 4 sacks, and a 12.4 quarterback rating. You know, I just feel like Matt Ryan got outplayed by Nick Foles in that game, and Nick Foles was terrible. He was terrible. Obviously, Nick Foles is not going to be the Eagles' starting quarterback going forward. We'll see, obviously, how long Wentz will be out, Carson Wentz, and Nick Foles won't be the starter. Maybe by the time they see the Falcons again, and at that point, Matt Ryan's going to be outmatched by Carson Wentz, who's a better quarterback than Matt Ryan anyway. And if Matt Ryan can't beat Nick Foles, I don't know if I like his chances to beat Carson Wentz when he's healthy. You know, that's my concerns. That's my main concerns over the Falcons, and I picked them to win the division because I thought Matt Ryan would have a similar season to his MVP year a couple years ago. And I may have made a huge mistake. I may have made a big mistake. Now, fortunately for me, the Saints lost bizarrely to the Buccaneers, who I thought was going to be one of the worst teams, if not the worst team in all of football this year. And Ryan Fitzpatrick for mayor, seriously. I mean, Fitzpatrick had a tremendous game, so fortunately for me, the Falcons didn't lose ground on the Saints and the Panthers. The Panthers who beat the Cowboys, and don't get me started on that game because the Cowboys have their own concerns of their own. But those are my concerns for the Falcons, and I hope they can turn things around. I do believe they will be able to turn things around. And like I said, I'm not going to overreact. I'm not going to overreact because it's overreaction Monday and Tuesday or whatever. And but I am going to keep a close eye on the Falcons throughout the year. I hope they can turn things around and get things done in the end zone and do a better job of finding Julio Jones. That is going to do it for today's edition of the Nail in the Coffin podcast. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe down below so that you never miss out on any future sports video. And I will see you later.